Hi, this is Colette and welcome to Soul Life Loving, and I'm going to continue the discussion of what I learned from my soul journey from coming to this, before I came to this planet, to where I am now. And so I think I'm about the age of 3 when I actually started to knowingly manage how I was around dark energy people, or people with a lot of dark energy kind of moving around in them. Up to that point, I would just go and hide. Because in me, I knew that I was on a mission, so it's almost like there was my human bit and then my mission soul bit, with the angels and fairies and guides and oops, sorry, my blankets just fell off my knees. And there's only so much spiritual learning I could do at that age, that I could have an impact on with my physical human body. And because I've been aware of my physical human body for, well, since I knew, I don't think people realise when they choose to come from where they are into a human body, that compression that goes on from that high frequency to this frequency, because babies can't handle that kind of frequency. They can't handle that kind of energy. They physically don't have the capability to do that. You grow into it, and then you can take your frequency where you are as a baby, and you can just slowly raise it and raise it. But that takes awareness, which you don't have when you're a baby. You know, it's all very well having all that knowledge of the spirit world and what's going on there, and telepathy and these amazing spherical understandings and conversations and dialogues that go on, but you don't have the physical body to do anything about it. So when I was about 3, I was able to I was able to do something about it, and the plan was to only do it so much that my parents allowed it, because I couldn't, at that age, although I was allowed to play out on the streets and what have you, because I lived on a one-sided street, so it was pretty safe, and the road stopped before it got to my house. So we had all this, I had all this rough land with a stream running through it, so there's quite a large area. I wasn't allowed beyond that, because there was a massive, what do they call them, where all the rough metal and wrecked cars go to be recycled. We had a big one of them opposite, and then we had a big removals firm further down, and so the road went to them, but then it stopped. So I wasn't allowed to go beyond the garage. I wasn't allowed to go beyond the street for a couple of years from being 3, but I was allowed to go beyond that after. But there was a limit, especially with the weather, to where I could actually hide away from people, so that their negative energy, because I'd already decided that I needed to hide away from these people that I was growing up with, because they didn't have my best interests at heart. And my dad, who I thought had my best interests at heart, I didn't fully trust him, because there was just something about him that said, I'm okay interacting with him as long as somebody else is there. either my mum or my brother, it didn't matter. As long as there was somebody else there, then I could interact with him. But if he was on his own, then I didn't. I needed to keep out of the way. I didn't know why until later. But there was a huge reason why I chose that family, and that was down to the negative karmic ties and karmic debts, and the karmic repeats because of it. That, you know, because somewhere along it, you know, you come back again and you meet the same people, you feel attracted to them because it's a karmic debt, but they're not good for you. Nobody understands why you're with them, but it's linked. And only if you're a spiritual person and you're gifted enough to see that, do you avoid it. And you can't avoid it. You have to go through it. You have to experience it, and you have to break it, because they didn't break it. They died in it, but they didn't break it. And so that was my job. I had to go through all the shit that they went through and find a way out. So the beginning of my managing my learning started when I was able to leave the house or hide in the house. I had a number of hiding places, usually in the dark, which is really strange because my home is painted in really dark colours, you know, like ceiling, walls, skirting, rads, radiators, and all that. I still live in a semi-dark with really low lights. I don't use big lights that often unless there's workmen in, and I'm still the same. But what's funny, what I learned last year that made me actually laugh out loud on the street like a lunatic, was that the people that I've had friendships with, or I've known acquaintances that have been to my home, and have all complained about how dark it is in there, but then they all go outside, and as soon as they're outside they put the black sunglasses on. And I don't wear sunglasses when I'm out because I like to see the colour as it really is. I like to see life as it really is out there, and all the colour nuances and all the angles and the shapes and the movement. And I want to see it all in its real colours that I am seeing. So I don't wear sunglasses. And I thought, this is really weird. It's like, I wouldn't dream of saying to them, God, you're so weird going out and putting black glasses. What's the point in going out into the daylight if you're going to turn it into night? And it would never even cross my mind, because I don't think like that, to criticise them on it. But they're like, you're so weird. And when I pointed it out, there was quite a bit of silence. By a bit of silence, I mean hours and hours and hours. And I was waiting for a response. No response. They couldn't respond. It was so true and so logical that they did that and I did this, but I didn't criticise them, but they kept criticising me, that it just showed them up to me that, hang on, let's just go back, review this person's friendship with me, see how many points of that negative fingers pointed at me from them, and do I point a negative finger at them? And so friendships have gone by the by because of it, especially when they're unconscious and they're spoken, and you know that they've got there to that point by slating you behind your back in such a way and so often that it's become habitual. and they forget themselves, and they show you exactly how they talk about you when you're not there. So when I get to that, I either decide, does this person really need my help in this? Does this person deserve my loyalty? And if the answer to those two things are no, then the third action is to remove myself from it, because it's not real and it's not true. And so that all stemmed from being 3 and hiding myself behind sofas, under chairs with cloths over. And when I was there, I was just in spirit world. You know, there's kind of, we have a saying that, oh, she's away with the fairies. And I used to think, I could hear, and I used to think, how do they know that I'm playing with fairies? How do they know I'm having these conversations? But listening to them, because quite often sometimes they'd forget about me, and then they'd kind of, and I realised lately that I was just in the role of an observer. I was literally silent and observing, and that was my role. And as I grew up, I've always looked at that as a really negative personality disorder almost thing in me, that I do that. And it's only by butting up against this soulful community have I realised, no, actually, that's an asset. Being able to sit silently and observe and listen whilst being in my own zone with my spirit guide, which means I'm channeling, I'm downloading and I'm channeling to understand everything. That's an asset. It's not a negative. But according to the adults in my world, the mutism, the non-interaction, the not connecting with other children, the fact that my eyesight was so bad that until I was 2 I couldn't actually see until I got my glasses, and all the eye shenanigans that went on with the patches and everything to strengthen my eyes stuff, all of that was an asset. Everything that I went through was an asset. Somewhere on my line, you know, there was somebody who didn't even know about glasses. They were just somebody's child that ran around and couldn't see properly or couldn't hear properly or hid. But I was bringing in all this knowledge, and all that was coming into me so that I didn't lose myself in these karmic lessons I needed to go through, because I needed to find a way out of them, find solutions, and then sever the connection, acknowledge it and sever it deliberately and consciously so it couldn't follow. And that was one. And because a lot of these things that happened, some of them were children that died, but they were further back. The older they were, the older I had to be before I could experience what they experienced, and I could disconnect from it and deal with it. And sometimes, you know, it was really overwhelming, because I was just one of those, sometimes, you know, you think, why, if something weird and something left field is going to happen to anybody, why does it always happen to me? It's, hands on hips kind of things. And I'd be shouting at the guard like, oi, you knobhead, you know, what's going on? Why does it always have to be me? And it was like, well, it just has. It just has, because you're on this path. We're going to help you on this path. You're never going to be alone. We'll never abandon you. But you're here with us, and you're there. And you've got to get that through this. And sometimes I kicked and screamed, but at other times you just have to bite the bullet and you just have to accept it, that it's just how it is. and you came through to do this, and this is what's going to happen, and don't fight it. And so 15 minutes I'm going to go. Thank you for listening. See you again.